Interviews for a vacancy on the Electoral Commission kicked off this morning in Sandton. 12 candidates are being interviewed by a panel established in terms of the Electoral Commission Act. The panel is chaired by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Sheilan Clarke from My Vote Counts has been attending them through the day. Sheilan, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time on the pulse. The Electoral Commission is about to go through probably the biggest test in its history. I mean, 1994 was a big test, but next year we're likely to have the most contested elections in our history. What kind of person do we need to be a commissioner on the Electoral Commission?
Yes, so of course next year's election is going to be a massive one because it will be the first one with a brand new electoral system. We've got the Political Party Fighting Act and all these things that the IEC needs to, be implementing. So whoever gets the top job needs to hit the ground running. So, of course, what we are looking for at this important Chapter 9 institution for our democracy is someone who can act with the highest form of integrity, someone who is passionate about democracy, and someone who will just act in just keeping the will of the people in their minds. So we need someone who has all these qualities. The questions that the panel have been asking all the candidates are things about integrity, are things about being the importance of being independent and acting in independence. Because that's also very important because we need people to be impartial since they're going to be working with political parties and independent candidates going forward. So we need a strong candidate to take forth the mandate of the IEC, especially with next year's elections.
There are some people, quite a few people now, who have experience in running elections in our country. They'll have worked for the IEC in the past. You could easily make an argument that when you talk about the challenges the Electoral Commission will face next year, you need experience. You could also make an argument that maybe you need someone from sort of outside the electoral machinery. How do you see it?
Yes, I mean, the group that we have, the 12 candidates, most of them are new faces because usually when you see the nomination list for any Chapter 9 institutions, you always see the same faces. They always go bounce between this Chapter 9 to that Chapter 9. So we're seeing quite a few new faces. Most of the candidates all have law backgrounds. There was someone who had 20 years as election observer experience in Africa and abroad. So lots of elections experience. But I mean, running the IEC is not just about elections. There are other things as well, like financing, governance, all these kinds of things. So anybody can have a seat at the table when it comes to running our Electoral Commission. So yeah, it is going to be nice to have someone new, someone fresh, just to build on bringing some new ideas because we are talking about the IEC looking to the e-voting. That's something they want to roll out from next year, so the electronic voting. So we're looking for fresh ideas. But when I just stepped up, the candidate was talking about he's passionate about cyber security. That was a big thing that the IEC needs to focus on. So we're looking for those fresh ideas for the IEC.
Sometimes when you watch a process like this, Sheilan, you can sort of see who the favorite is, who the front runner is. Sometimes you can't. Do you think, I mean, these are live visuals that we're watching at the moment. From what you've been seeing so far, can you see the panel heading in any particular direction as to who they'll recommend? I think they recommend to Parliament.
Well, of course, we are here today because the Vice Chairperson, Janet Love's, her term came to an end in April. So this is why we need to fill this vacancy. However, she was the first one to be interviewed, so she has put herself up for nomination. Of course, she would be the favorite, I would say, just because of that institutional knowledge and just because there's a lot that IEC needs to deal with, especially with the new electoral system. There are one or two candidates that are quite strong. There was someone who was talking about the finances because the IEC, their budget just keeps getting cut year after year. So he kept those things in mind, talking about other ways that the IEC can look towards, finding, possibly looking to getting donations. And then the election observer that I spoke about earlier. There are a few names there, but Janet Love definitely will be, I would suppose, for the context of next year's elections and the new system, probably put her forward. But there are two or three strong candidates so far.
Many people, I think, are likely, and I think something we're likely to see, Sheilan, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would put a fair amount of money that almost every political party that contests next year's election is going to have some complaint about the IEC. How does it go about strengthening its credibility before the election? And is part of that maybe just explaining to people the structure, how it is almost impossible, probably is impossible, to steal an election under our system?
I think many South Africans probably won't believe that the IEC, our electoral system or our electoral commission, is one of the strongest in the world. I mean, they do act, fairly to the best that they can. Again, even with all the budget cuts, they do act, and with fewer resources, they do act as fair as they can. I mean, and this is the one of the strengths of the IEC. They are running the Political Party Funding Act every quarter. They're on time, sometimes even earlier, ahead of schedule, giving out these disclosures. So they really do do the best they can given the resources. And I mean, I do believe in the IEC, and that's also why, for my accounts, having this process being open, the nomination and the interview process, is we need to ensure that whoever comes into the IEC will continue being impartial, will continue being non-biased, will continue pushing and strengthening our democracy and making sure that the democracy runs transparently and runs smoothly.
Sheilan Clarke, thank you from My Vote Counts. Really appreciate the time.